Hi again. So, we are going to continue reading Mexican Treasure Hunt. And what happened in the previous two chapters is that Hannah ended up someplace in Mexico during the Day of the Dead. And because it's not what she experiences with her culture, she was kind of creeped out by it. But Luis, the friend that she met there, was like, this isn't scary at all. What's wrong? Chapter 3, Lizard Face. I'll be right back, Luis whispered, still staring into the crowd. Before I could stop him, he dashed away, leaving me alone with his marionettes. I looked around, trying to see what frightened him. There were a lot of people in the marketplace. Every one of them seemed suspicious to me. Was Luis scared of the woman with the scarf around her head and the dead chickens hanging from each fist? Was he scared of the smart aleck kid in the ghost costume swaggering through the fruit stands? Luis had run the other way, away from the crowd. I glanced behind me to see where he'd gone. He was nowhere in sight. How could he just leave me here? When I turned back, someone in a bright red mask was standing in front of me, toying with the angel puppet. It was the creepiest mask I'd ever seen in my life. Shiny red face, yellow teeth, and slitty holes for eyes. He looked like an alien lizard, slimy and mean. Pause. I want you to draw what you think this looks like. You're not allowed to play the video until you've drawn it. Got it? So draw a picture of what it sounds like this mask is. The creepiest mask I've ever seen in my life. Shiny red face, yellow teeth, slitty holes for eyes. He looked like an alien lizard, slimy and mean. So, based on that description, I want you to draw me a picture of this creepy mask, okay? And when you're done, I'll be right here and ready to go. Okay, thank you for drawing that. ¿Dónde está Luis? Lizardface asked, running his fingers along the edge of the angel's wing. I knew from Spanish class that he was asking where Luis went. He left, I said. I did not like this man's sneaky voice. And I didn't like the way his eyeballs darted slyly, this way and that way, behind the eye slits of the mask. ¿Dónde está la carta? He asked then. I don't understand, I told him. I hated the way his grimy fingernails tapped on the angel's shoulder. He leaned forward across the table. Where is the map? He hissed in English. I stepped back. The mask made my skin crawl. I don't know what you're talking about, I said loudly. Figured if I was loud enough, he might go away. By the way he kept looking around, I could tell he did not want anyone to notice him. I was right. Lizardface quickly stood up straight and set the puppet back onto the table. Tell Luis his compadre is looking for him, he said. Then he slinked back into the crowd. I just stood there, shaking. Where was Luis, and why was Lizardface looking for him? I was glad the guy had left. I picked up the angel marionette and hung her on a peg next to me, above the skeleton mariachi musicians. Was I on the right mission? Had Luis asked the angels for help? Or was I just scaring myself silly, standing here surrounded by strangers and puppets? Okay, based on what you know about books, I want you to pause and think. Do you think she was put on the wrong mission? Or do you think the angels were putting her in the right place? So based on what you know about stories, is she in the right place or is she in the wrong place? Then I noticed that the music from the real mariachi band had grown quiet. The players were still strolling down the street, and I could see they were playing music. I couldn't hear it. I strained to listen. You have the map, I heard. The words were echoing from one of the mariachi's trumpets. Not music exactly, but long, brassy musical words. Now there was dead silence in the marketplace. No kids shrieking, no squawking chickens, no fruit vendors yelling, and no music coming from the band. Not a note. Look, said the voice from the trumpet. Look now. Who do you think it is? Make a prediction. Based on what we've read so far, who do you think that voice is? It was my angel Lyra. On my mission to Australia, her messages had sung through another instrument, the didgeridoo. Now, they were coming right out of the mariachi's trumpet. The mariachi didn't seem to hear it. He kept right on blowing into his trumpet, playing his music, and everyone else was acting as if nothing was wrong. Look, the voice echoed again. The map. I finally snapped out of my haze and tore into the knapsack that I always had with me. Knapsack is a backpack, just a different word for it. As I did, the market noises and the mariachi music instantly came back. Sure enough, my angels had equipped me for this trip the way they always do. There were my usual things, a compass, a flashlight, my journal and colored pencils, and my angelic language decoder. I found new things too. A pocket knife, a little green tube, and a roll of bright orange tape. And there was a tattered envelope. I decided on the envelope. Quickly, I pulled it out and glanced around to make sure the masked man wasn't watching. Inside the envelope was a worn sheet of crinkled paper. As I unfolded it, it felt really, really delicate. I was afraid the paper might crumble into dust in my fingers. It had to be very old. When I saw what the paper was, my mouth dropped open. It was a map, the kind you see in pirate books. The page was marked with a bunch of scratchy lines and strange symbols and an X, but it was ripped. It looked like half the map was missing. I carefully folded the paper and tucked it back into the envelope. Then I began fishing around in the backpack for the other half. What are you looking for? I must have jumped a mile. Luis was back. Oh, Luis, you scared me. I said, where did you run off to? He ignored my question. Can I help you find something? He asked. But he wasn't looking at me. He was looking around the market again, searching the faces of the crowd. What's going on, Luis? I asked, snapping my backpack shut. This was getting ridiculous. I had to know if Luis was part of my mission or if I needed to start looking somewhere else. What do you mean? He asked, all innocent. Come on, I snapped. I can get very impatient when some people don't give me a straight answer. Some creepy guy here was looking for you. So we just got a new character trait, impatient. Keep thinking about different character traits that we can say about Hannah, about Luis, about the angels when we learn more about them, because that's a very important skill that I want you to practice. What do we know about the characters? Luis's dark eyes shot open wide. A guy in a red mask, I went on. He said he was your compadre, but he sure didn't look like a friend to me. The terror leapt back into Luis's eyes. He grabbed my arm. What did he want? He asked. He was looking for a map, I told him. What else did he say, Hannah? Nothing, I said, shaking his hand off my arm. Luis, you have to tell me what's going on, or I'm leaving right this second. It was true. I had no idea where I would have gone, but I was ready to take off. Listen, Luis said in a low voice. I'm in a pile of trouble. Let's go somewhere we can talk. I wasn't about to go anywhere far. I knew I had to be careful, even though Luis was the same age as me. After all, I didn't know him from a jumping bean. He might be dangerous, and his friend, the masked man, was definitely dangerous. Somewhere in public, I said. Luis nodded. We can go to the church across the plaza. That sounded safe enough. Luis asked the woman at the next table to watch his puppets. Then I picked up my backpack, and we walked over to an old white church with a huge bell in the tower. The bell was ringing. 12 tolls. It must be noon. What time had it been back in the grocery store with my mom? I had no idea. Angel time is very strange. Take a second. Draw a picture of what you think the tower looks like, or the whole church and the tower. We walked over to an old white church with a huge bell in the tower. The bell was ringing. Take a second. Draw what you think that looks like. We need to practice visualizing as you're listening or reading books, because if you visualize it and you can see what you're reading in your head, you can start to understand it better. Especially with books that somebody is reading aloud to you. You are allowed, when it comes to me, to draw what's happening in the story as I'm reading. And especially because when I was in college, so I was a grown-up already, technically. I'm not really that grown-up now. But when I was a grown-up and in college, and it was hard for me to follow what was happening in my lessons, they're called lectures, I would draw what the professor was telling me about. And that actually really helped me understand what was happening in these really complex history books. So drawing what's happening and drawing what you're hearing somebody say can really, really help you as you're working. This, according to Hannah, is what the tower looked like. Let me know. You can email me, you can text me, whatever works best. Did your mental image of the tower match up with Hannah's picture? After the bright light outside, the church was pitch dark. Red and gold spots from the sun jumped in front of my eyes. Through the sunspots, I could make out a big white marble altar up top, and lots of pictures made of tiny tiles. I think they're called mosaics. Luis and I slipped into a pew and faced each other. "Tell me about what that guy wanted, Luis," I whispered. "What's this about a map?" "First of all, Hannah," Luis whispered back, "I need you to know one thing. And I need to know one thing. I need to know if I can trust you." "Trust me?" I said, teasing. I held my hand over my heart, as if it hurt me a lot that he thought I might not be trustworthy. The real question was, could I trust Luis? "I'm serious," Luis said. "I'm in a whole barrel of trouble." "Do you believe in angels, Luis?" I asked him. It was worth a try. He gave me a funny look. "Why do you ask?" "Because I think you could use some help right now. You know, to talk to somebody you're sure you could trust." "Actually, I do believe in Los Angeles," said Luis. "In fact, I have been asking them for help." Good. Now we were definitely getting somewhere. I felt better. I was in the right place. "Luis," I said, "you can trust me. As long as you tell me the truth, I will help you." "You're the only person I've told about this," Luis said. He put his finger to his lips for me to keep quiet. Then he got up and started searching around the church. It looked empty to me. Everybody else was at the marketplace. But Luis bent down to peer under the pews. He went up to the altar, blessed himself, and checked a little door on the side. He walked down every aisle, past the statues and the mosaic pictures and the candles that flickered in the dark. This is a good time. If you would like, you can draw a picture of what you think the inside of the church is looking like. "The coast is clear," he said, coming back to sit next to me. "Okay," I said. "Go ahead." "Do you know anything about ancient treasures, Hannah?" he whispered. "Ancient Mayan treasures?" "Treasures? Cool. What's Mayan?" I asked. "The ancient Mayan people lived here over 1,000 years ago. Then they suddenly deserted their cities, and nobody knows why. It's very mysterious. But they left behind lots of temples and tombs and palaces." "And treasures?" I asked. Luis nodded. "My family is descended from the Mayans. Our ancestors made those treasures with their own hands. Jade jewelry, stone sculptures, and gold discs, carved with pictures. You can see some of them in the museums." This was exciting. Real treasure. I nodded for Luis to go on. "Well," he whispered, "I might know where to find one of those treasures." My heart jumped. The map! Was there some kind of connection? "Is that why the masked man was looking for you?" I asked. "Yes, and he's not the only one," Luis said sadly. "Another person is after me, and there could be more." "Are they from a museum?" I asked. Luis put his head in his hands. "I wish they were," he mumbled. "No, Hannah, they're not from a museum." "Then who are they?" I asked. "Robos," Louise whispered. Treasured thieves. Let me check how long chapter 4 is, because that was a long... Okay, we can read chapter 4. Of course we can. I always do 2 chapters. Chapter 4. 2 halves make a whole. Thieves? I said, that's terrible. Louise nodded glumly. What would thieves want with an old Mayan treasure? I asked. Money, said Louise. They'd sell it for lots of money. Who would buy it? Louise shrugged. People who collect artwork, maybe. People who have a bunch of money and no respect for keeping the ancient treasures here in Mexico. But you don't even have the treasure, I said. Then I remembered to keep my voice low. So why are they after you? Louise glanced around to make sure we were still alone. Then he reached into his shirt and pulled out a tattered piece of paper. I recognized it right away. It looked just like the map that I had in my backpack. When he unfolded it, I saw that he had only half a map too. I found this one day when I was digging around inside one of the ruins, he said. Somehow, these robbers found out that I had it. Maybe they saw me find it, I don't know. But it's not much good anyway. It's only half the map. I can't find the other half. I pulled up my backpack and dug out the envelope. Look, Louise, I said excitedly. Is this it? We put the 2 pieces next to each other and they matched perfectly. Together, they made one whole treasure map. Wow, said Louise. This is unbelievable. We could actually find the treasure now, before the robbers do. Just then, we heard a noise. The door of the church was creaking open. Suddenly, a bright light filled the darkness. Louise and I both shut up, and we quickly hid the map pieces. Then we turned around to see who would come in. It was an old lady with long, white braids. She was wearing a black dress, embroidered in bright flowers. She walked right over to us and nodded. You are coming to the cemetery tonight, Louise? She asked. Sí, abuelita, he said. I will be there. And your friend is coming too? She asked, smiling at me. Abuelita, this is Hannah, said Louise. This is my grandmother, Senora Chuk. When Senora Chuk shook my hand, she held onto it for a long time. Her touch was warm and kind. I thought it was nice of her to invite me to their family's Day of the Dead celebration. Sometimes people are funny about family celebrations, if you know what I mean. Buenos tardes, Hannah, said Senora Chuk. Please call me Abuelita, like Luis does. Abuelita, are you the grandma who makes the marionettes? I asked her. Why, yes, Abuelita said. Do you like them? I especially like the angel, I told her. Ah, the angel. Her face lit up like a candle in the church. See, the angel is also my favorite. Luis's grandmother was still holding my hand. I felt as if she was trying to figure me out somehow. New character, right? So we've done a lot of looking at Hannah as a character. And we've looked at drawing the picture of the lizard mask. We did a lot of visualization beforehand. Now I want you to write down some things that you know about the grandmother, okay? Abuelita, what do we know about her? What are some words we can use to describe her? I'll give you a start. One is kind. I definitely think kind is the first one because she invited Hannah to join her. So based on that, I want you to start thinking about the characters. I'm going to light some prayer candles now, she announced finally. She gently let go of my hand and made her way to the front of the church, where lots of little candles were flickering in red jars. Luis and I started talking again, keeping our voices down to a whisper. Luis told me that Abuelita lit candles in memory of the relatives who were dead. It was a way to send them off into a peaceful afterlife. I couldn't wait for the cemetery celebration tonight, to see how these relatives came back to Earth. My brother Paco will take over the puppet table for the rest of the afternoon, Luis said. Do you want to go treasure hunting? Yes, I said immediately, and then I changed my mind. But no, I just remembered that guy behind the mask. He gave me goosebumps. Sure didn't want him coming after us. If the thieves know we have the other half of the map, they'll be hot on our trail, Luis. But if we don't find the treasure, the robbers will eventually find it and steal it, Luis pointed out. If we find it first, we can give it to the museum, where it belongs. I thought for a minute. Okay, that makes sense, I agreed. After all, why would the angels have put the map in my backpack if I wasn't supposed to use it? We can't tell anyone we have this whole map, Luis said. No one can know we're looking for the treasure. That made me uncomfortable. What if we got trapped by the thieves? No one would know to go looking for us. I pictured myself and Luis tied up and left to rot in some ancient ruin. There's Hannah's visualization. Nobody? I asked. But don't you think it would be safer if... No, said Luis, cutting me off. If anyone knows, they'll be in danger too. Well, I guess he had a point. He certainly wouldn't want to endanger his family. But I didn't like the jittery feeling I was getting in my stomach. The whole thing made me uneasy. What about Abuelita? I asked. I watched as she silently lit her candles in the front of the church. I was sure she'd understand and keep the secret to herself. Nobody can know anything, Hannah, Luis repeated firmly. Abuelita came back down the aisle. Luis, I will see you tonight, she said as she passed us. And you too, Hannah. The minute she was out the door, we pulled out the map pieces. Here's what the map looked like with both pieces aligned. So they put the two pieces together, and that's what it looked like. How do you know which way to look at it? I asked. Since there was no writing on it, you couldn't tell up from down. I think it goes this way, said Luis, turning the map sideways. And what are those symbols on the edges? I asked, pointing. They weren't written in L'Oreal's angel code, that's for sure. I'd never seen them before. They're letters of the Mayan alphabet, Luis explained. The ancient Mayans made pictures for everything. They're called pictograms. Cool. What do they say in English, Luis? I have no idea, he said, shrugging. I have never studied the Mayan alphabet. The symbols probably aren't that important since they're along the edges. Maybe not, I said slowly. I studied the main part of the map with all the squares and circles and triangles. It looks like we're right about here. Luis pointed to the top of the map. I think we should follow that triangle and head south. What do you think? Sounds like a plan, I agreed. We had to start somewhere. We folded up our map pieces. Luis and I both stood up at the same time. I had an idea. Let's go light a candle for a safe trip, I said. Okay, Luis agreed. We went to the front of the church, to the side of the altar. Luis took a long stick from a jar and lit the end from the flame of one of the already glowing candles. He carefully touched it to the wick of a little white candle. The candle immediately flickered red in its jar. Suddenly, another candle behind it lit up all by itself. Luis's eyes shut wide open. Then another candle lit up. Then another. Now there were 4. I knew exactly what was happening. All 4 of my angels were telling me they'd be with us on our mission. One by one, I gazed at each flame. They were almost like tiny, bright angel heartbeats. Did angels have hearts? It didn't matter. I felt protected. Let's go, I said. Vámonos, Luis echoed in Spanish. We quickly headed out of the church into the bright daylight. Our Mayan treasure hunt and my Mexican angel mission were about to begin. So that's chapters 3 and 4. What I want you to practice today is doing your visualizations, okay? So you practice visualizing what was happening in the chapters by drawing it out, right? I want you, if you have a book of your own, which you all should because I gave all of you books, I want you to read through and stop and draw a couple of pictures as you're reading to help you understand what's happening. You can draw a picture of the character. You can draw a picture of what you think the setting looks like. You can compare and contrast 2 characters. But I want you to send me the title, the author, and your visualization, which is your picture, in an email, a text. You know how to get it to me. Then I want you to do a prediction for what you think is going to happen next in Hannah's story. If you would like, you can rewatch this video 2 or 3 times so that you can hear this read aloud over and over again. That's the cool thing about digital learning. You can play me over and over again. I'm a video instead of a person right now, so if I go too fast, you can pause me. If I go too slow, well, you can't speed me up because that would be confusing, but you don't have to listen to me twice. Take it at your pace, and I know you guys can do a great job. I cannot wait to see your pictures, your visualizations, and I can't wait to see your predictions, so see you later.